Welcome to One Piece, chapter 1184. We're taking it back a little bit casual here. Gonna chill back a bit because this is such a heartwarming chapter, right? This is about Brook learning the kindness of Levin, right? We saw him and he looked like clearly he cares for Shuri. He cares for Kandel and he cares for Brook. But he's got that rough exterior that we just think that he's going to beat up someone. And here we get kind of more of how kind he is, right? In the beginning of this chapter, Shuri is now 14. She is, last chapter, I thought that Imu took her over when she was 7. But apparently we might just be looking at Gunko now as basically her age being frozen in time, and she's becoming very much like her mother and father, where she is just extremely talented swordsman. I love the fact that she was just beating up a bunch of suitors and going like, you guys are weak men and you can't even play music. What point do you have? Right? Very, very funny. I love it. But also at the same time, she is trying to impress Brook, right? Because Brook is kind of her ideal man, right? She's like, oh, I got stronger. I play music. She's like, I got everything. My boobs. And like, we're like, okay, what? I'm sorry, but I appreciate that Brook is just like, like, yeah, great, cool. But he's not being Brook about it, which I appreciate. I appreciate when Brook isn't being Brook about it, which is very, very wonderful. But the way she mentions, she like clearly notices that Brook cares so much for her father. And she's like, you admire him a lot, don't you? And he's like, yeah, I do. And we go even further back into the flashback when Brook was 11, and there's this really incredible moment of him just looking through a school window. You see all the dirt and scratches all over his face as he's watching these kids play instruments. And Brook is like greatly impressed. He's like, wow, this is so incredible. And we start to see the life that Brook is living. He is living out in the dumps outside of Asperia. He is hanging out with the dogs. He's eating like a mix of like frogs and toads. It is just not comfortable living conditions. And when he starts to sing a song, he sings a song about how bad the king is because his mother, his father, his little brother are all starving. And he's singing about how awful the king is because to Brook, he is not living the best life he could. He was just watching a bunch of kids having music lessons, but the amount of care and love of making his own violin, of him singing this song, it grabs the attention of the prince, Levin, which is just a great moment because he first comes in, he's like, what is this awful lyrics, right? He doesn't say awful singing, he says awful lyrics. And he's very curious about what the hell is going on. But he's like, I kind of dig the song. Like the song is kind of cool. And Brook then offers him like, hey, why don't we have dinner? And so Brook cooks him up a dinner. Doesn't look the tastiest. We even have Levin kind of thinking back and going like, his dinner's with Kandel, because right now at the time, Brook is 11 and Levin is about, I think it was said 27, 21, around that age. And I love this moment of us seeing how caring of a person Levin is, where he is thinking back to all these dinners that he has, but he still decides to like eat with Brook. And we get this moment where he's like freaking out. He is just so I think as Brook puts it, he is convulsing at the horrific food that Brook has just provided for him, but he's having a good time. And there's this really cute panel of them just hanging out. We even have Levin taking off, right? He starts off meeting Brook with the ruffles, the nice coat, noble coat, but as he starts to hang out more and more with Brook, he is just happy. He is excited. We see him in his white tank top fishing, playing music, eating with Brook, having the best time of his life. And I'm wondering if Levin is being this kind because at one point Candel was being kind to Levin. It really feels like this succession of kindness that's happening throughout all of these characters, right? Where it could be Candel being so kind to Levin because maybe Levin relates to Brook in some way. Maybe he was like Brook at one point, right? I still, his aesthetic of being this gruff looking guy of the messy hair, like it really feels like he is not meant to be royalty, but he is, right? There is, I feel like there is some story that Oda is trying to tell with his design. So I'm expecting us to also learn more about Levin, because now that Levin is hanging out and having the best time of his life with Brook, Brook also is spreading that kindness to Shuri, right? So it's just this very wonderful, Esperia is just such a kind-hearted and wonderful place. And I do say kind-hearted and wonderful place, but literally the very next panel, the Marines have attacked and essentially have been beaten up and taken Brook because of the Morone family have shown up, and they believe that they're using Brook as some sort of courier. And they are, look at this, look at what they've done to Brook. And what makes this so awesome is that not only does Levin show up, but Candel shows up, and they're beating up the world government. And I like one of the Marines are like, you know that we're associated to the world government, you can't get it. And I love that they just do not care. They're here to save Brook, and they don't care about the consequences of what happens, right? I freaking love it. Also, I mean, if they're already being this aggressive towards the world government, boy howdy, I'm very curious about what's going to happen when this island just disappears. We haven't gotten to that point yet, and I'm still like, right, this whole chapter, no Emu, no Elbath. It is just strictly all Esperia. So it's got to be some sort of importance, right? I love them breaking in, of them just slicing up the Marines, of just like, you guys are so dumb. I need you guys all to stop, which is just absolutely wonderful. And I appreciate that after saving Brook, we get this moment where Candel is very fond of it, right? Because she is also in her 20s, right? We don't get an age for her, but most likely she is in her 20s, much like Levin. And so this is where Brook gets his crush on Candel because of how sweet and kind she is. And I love that we are seeing these characters who are just so kind, so wonderful, that for like, you know, the chapter ends on Brook just tearing up and crying. And it's just this moment of like, you guys have been so generous to me. And I understand, dude. Levin, character, I quickly was like, dude, this guy is such a cool and kind-hearted person. I'm very curious. And it even makes actually more sense now why one of the first things that Brook said to Gunko after seeing her for so long was that, like, you father killer, how could you do that? Like, he is so upset because of how much Levin means to Brook. And I'm very curious what the next chapters will be like. Obviously we have a break week, but man, this has been one of my favorite just chapters of just kindness, of just feeling the love, right? Of seeing a Brook backstory that was something I just wasn't expecting, and seeing it in this way of Brook just being shown so much kindness and so much love that he is willing to now share his music with everyone because he was given a chance. It's just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But hey, thank you all so much for taking time to watch me casually talk about One Piece chapter 1184. Goodbye now. Bye-bye.